Across Canada, a powerful movement is unfolding, not with protests but in the choices made at grocery stores and online checkouts. Canadians are quietly boycotting American products, shifting billions of dollars to domestic goods. This isn't about hostility toward Americans, but a stand against policies seen as unfair. The movement, sparked by conversations and amplified by social media, is a collective act of economic self-defense and national pride. Every Canadian-made purchase is now a small act of patriotism, showing that consumer choice can be a potent economic tool. The boycott is challenging the idea of a seamlessly integrated North American market, as Canadians prioritize their own economy. This quiet rebellion is sending a loud message about the future of Canada-US relations. The silent boycott began as a direct response to the sudden and escalating U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, which sent shockwaves through communities on both sides of the border. For many Canadians, these tariffs weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They felt like a targeted economic attack, threatening livelihoods and the sense of partnership that had long defined the relationship between the two countries. Headlines blared news of rising prices and strained relations, while everyday shoppers noticed the impact at the checkout. The cost of imported Canadian products in U.S. stores soared, and uncertainty rippled through local economies. Instead of taking to the streets in protest, Canadians chose a quieter, but no less powerful, form of resistance. They withheld their dollars from American companies, sending a clear message through their everyday choices. The movement grew organically, fueled by a mix of frustration, patriotism, and a deep desire to support Canadian producers who suddenly found themselves at a disadvantage. Local markets and Canadian brands saw a surge in support as people rallied around their own. President Trump's threat of a sweeping 35% tariff on all Canadian goods made the issue deeply personal for many. It wasn't just about economics anymore. It was about pride, fairness, and standing up for one's country. The resolve to buy local only grew stronger. Each shopping trip became an act of economic defense, a way for ordinary Canadians to reinforce national solidarity and protect their communities. Choosing Canadian brands over American ones became a daily ritual, a small but meaningful stand. The USMCA was meant to stabilize trade and restore trust, but for many, lingering threats and unpredictable policy shifts have left scars. The sense of partnership has been replaced by caution and skepticism. For many Canadians, the boycott is more than a protest. It's a necessary adaptation to an uncertain future. Conversations about trade and loyalty now echo in coffee shops and living rooms across the country. Canadians are asserting their independence, using their wallets as a shield and their choices as a call to action. In the face of tariffs and tensions, they are determined to shape their own economic destiny. The economic impact of the boycott is staggering, and its effects are being felt on both sides of the border. What began as a quiet, grassroots movement has rapidly grown into a powerful force, changing the way North Americans shop, spend, and think about their economic influence. According to Goldman Sachs, the United States could see losses reaching up to $90 billion in 2025, with the withdrawal of Canadian consumers playing a pivotal role. This isn't just a minor dip in sales, it's a seismic shift in cross-border commerce, and financial experts are sounding the alarm. A recent 2025 survey revealed that 71% of Canadians now plan to buy fewer American products. This isn't a fringe trend, it's a mainstream movement, cutting across age, region, and income. Canadians are making conscious choices, and their collective action is sending a clear message. The boycott's reach is vast, touching everything from groceries and clothing to travel and entertainment. Already, over $1 billion Canadian dollars have been redirected to domestic businesses, strengthening local economies and supporting Canadian jobs. This is more than a protest. It's a direct transfer of wealth. In just a few months, market dynamics have been reshaped, with Canadian retailers seeing a surge in business and U.S. companies scrambling to respond. Where price and convenience once dominated, national pride and a sense of responsibility now guide purchasing decisions. Canadians are looking for the maple leaf, and supporting homegrown brands has become a point of pride. The numbers don't lie. collective consumer action is having massive economic consequences, shifting the balance of power in North American markets and proving that everyday choices can drive real change. In boardrooms and government offices, the message is unmistakable. Even the quietest rebellions can have the loudest impact. Executives and policymakers are rethinking strategies in response to this new reality. Canada's consumer power has become a force to be reckoned with, influencing not just business, but the very fabric of international relations between the two countries. While most of the boycott against American goods was informal, one part of the protest took on a new level of seriousness: the official ban on American whiskey. What began as a grassroots movement, with individuals quietly choosing to avoid U.S. products, soon escalated into a coordinated government-backed action that would send shockwaves through the beverage industry. In March 2025, several Canadian provinces made a bold move. They pulled all U.S.-made spirits from their shelves. This was a direct response to the newly imposed 25% U.S. tariff on Canadian imports, a policy that had already sparked outrage across the country. The ban was not just a symbolic gesture, it was a calculated act of economic retaliation. The impact was immediate and dramatic. Sales of American spirits in Canada plummeted by over 66% in just 2 months. In Ontario, the drop was a staggering 80%. Meanwhile, Canadian whiskey brands saw a surge in popularity as consumers looked for alternatives. Store shelves that once showcased popular American brands were now left bare, replaced by signs explaining the ongoing trade dispute. Liquor store staff worked quickly to fill the gaps with Canadian products, encouraging shoppers to try homegrown spirits. This was no longer a silent protest. It had become a government-sanctioned economic sanction, with official statements and press conferences outlining the reasons behind the ban. The message was clear: Canada would not back down in the face of unfair trade practices. U.S. producers like Jack Daniel's and other iconic brands faced not just higher tariffs, but a total loss of access to one of their largest export markets. Warehouses filled with unsold bottles, and the financial impact was felt almost overnight. The boycott demonstrated just how much power Canadian authorities held over the liquor market. By leveraging their control, they turned a simple consumer choice into a powerful tool of economic resistance. For many Canadians, the empty shelves became a stark symbol of fractured relations with their southern neighbor. The absence of familiar brands encouraged more people to rethink their purchases and support domestic producers. The whiskey boycott didn't just impact the bottom line, it amplified a wider movement, uniting citizens and governments in a shared act of economic resistance and sparking a renewed sense of national pride in Canadian products. The boycott's effects rippled across North American retail. U.S. border retailers, once reliant on Canadian shoppers, saw sales drop by up to 30%. Parking lots that used to be full of Canadian cars are now empty. Meanwhile, Canadian businesses are thriving as consumers choose local, especially in the liquor industry. Domestic alcohol sales rose by up to 15% in major provinces, and Canadian brands gained new fans. The Buy Canadian movement is revitalizing local economies, supporting jobs and communities. Billions in spending are being reinvested at home, strengthening the domestic market. The boycott has redrawn the commercial map, forcing U.S. businesses to confront the cost of political tensions. Consumer loyalty now has a clear border, with real financial consequences. The whiskey boycott had unintended consequences for Canada's own market. The North American spirits industry is deeply interconnected, so hurting U.S. producers also hurt Canadian businesses. Instead of just switching brands, many consumers stopped buying spirits altogether. Total sales fell nearly 13%. Bars and restaurants struggled with supply shortages and lost sales. The boycott's blunt impact hurt government revenues and private businesses alike. This experience highlighted the risks of economic retaliation in a globalized market. Even well-intentioned boycotts can backfire, prompting a re-evaluation of strategy. The formal boycott was a patchwork of provincial decisions, not a national policy. Some provinces removed American spirits, while others hesitated, leading to inconsistent enforcement. The impact was uneven. One province might ban a product, while another kept it on shelves. As negative effects mounted, provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan had ended their boycotts by July 2025. The result is a mosaic of policies, reflecting ongoing debates about the costs and benefits of economic action. The initial unity has given way to a more nuanced, pragmatic approach. The evolving response shows the challenge of coordinated action in Canada's federal system. The silent boycott marks a fundamental shift in North American trade. For decades, the Canada-US relationship was built on free-flowing goods and integrated markets. Now, national identity and political sentiment are powerful factors in consumer choices. US companies can no longer take Canadian goodwill for granted. Trade policy has real consequences. For Canada, the movement proves its consumers are a potent force, able to influence policy and negotiations. The boycott is now an informal tool in Canada's foreign policy arsenal. Trust has been damaged, and both businesses and consumers are rethinking cross-border ties. The psychological boundaries of the market have shifted, showing the power of collective action. The silent boycott is reshaping Canadian identity, fostering a more assertive, self-reliant nation. Buying Canadian is now a daily practice, building pride and supporting local communities. Even if political tensions fade, these habits may endure, strengthening the domestic economy. The movement has shown the benefits of import substitution and economic resilience. Canadians have realized the power of their collective choices. This quiet rebellion has sent a powerful message to the US and redefined Canada's sense of self. Sometimes, the most profound change starts with a single quiet choice in a grocery aisle.